Hello, Central New York, and hello, hockey fans all across the internet, and welcome to the Central New York Hockey Report podcast right here on the Studio 25 Podcast Network. Before we get going, just a couple of housekeeping items. So, of course, if you like what you see, if you like what you hear with this show, please make sure to subscribe or follow the Studio 25 Podcast Network, wherever you get the show, be it YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever. You don't want to miss the show? Well, then subscribe or follow us, please. We really need it.
We really need it. I like that. Please, begging you.
Please help us. No, seriously, though, if you don't want to miss an episode, go right ahead and subscribe and follow. All right, and so we've started up with our schedule previews. Now, keep in mind, all of these that you're seeing, they're not season previews. It's way, way too soon for that right now. However, up on CNYHockeyReport.com, we already have our Utica Pioneers and our Morrisville Mustangs, men's and women's season, the schedule. Well, take a look at it. Previews, whatever you want to call it, right?
Something.
Kind of lost my train of thought. Anyways, those are up there already. So if you want to check those out, CNYHockeyReport.com. And coming up this week is going to be the Oswego State Lakers and the team that we're going to talk about in this particular podcast, the Colgate Raiders. Now, the Colgate Raiders are, of course, the only Division I program in Central New York. Right down there in Hamilton, New York, they play at the beautiful Class of 1965 arena. So today, we're just going to talk about the schedules for the Colgate men's team and the Colgate women's team. Those schedules just came out this week, so we want to take a quick look at them. So before we get going, I do want to bring in my ever-faithful sidekick over here, Dave the Save Warner, who looks so happy to be here today.
Yeah, even with my hat.
I know. He looks good.
I forgot it last time. Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah,
I'll let it go this time. And I'm imagining that Jordy will jump in at some point. I think what we're going to have to do with him, we're going to have to start telling him, like, the show starts an hour before it really does.
Yeah, really. Tell him it starts at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, we're recording here at 2 o'clock, so we'll have to tell him it records at 1.
Yep,
so.
that'll work.
But anyways, he'll jump in when he can. So, Dave, I think that we're going to start with the men's team. And, of course, this graphic is, of course, courtesy of Colgate University. They did a great job with that. And I'm looking at that, and let's see, there's 34 total games on there, 12 non-conference games. Not a lot of difference from last season. So last year they opened up against UConn at home. This season they open up on the road at UConn, and I believe that's, October 3rd? I can't quite see the date there.
5th.
October 5th.
I had to look real close.
I need new glasses. All right, and so almost like I said, a mirror of this, because last season for their second set of games, they went on the road to Sacred Heart. Well, guess what? They open up at home against Sacred Heart on, October 11th, right?
Yes.
All right, so you know what, Dave? You know, the Sacred Heart series, I really hope, this is kind of special to Colgate because there's a special connection. Now, you remember when we had Eric Open from the Connecticut Hockey Foundation?
Right.
Well, he's out there at Sacred Heart.
Oh.
So, you know what? He's a big Sacred Heart plays a big role with the Connecticut Hockey Foundation. Eric is, of course, a graduate of Colgate back in 1990. So I'm hoping that he comes home for those games, and I'm hoping to run into him because I know I want to make at least one of those games.
Yeah. No, that's good.
So definitely a special set of games there. All right. So moving right along, then after that, the Raiders go on the road to UMass Lowell, the Riverhawks, who were at the Class of 1965 arena last season. So if you could pull that graphic back up, Dave, please. Thank you very much. So the first 4 games for Colgate are actually all non-conference games. If you take a look at it, their ECAC schedule doesn't start until, it looks like, November 15th.
Go ahead. Stare at that.
Yeah, it's hard to see there. It's when Brown comes to town. So they'll open up the ECAC schedule at home, anyways. 12 total non-conference games. We just mentioned the four sets of games. The other ones are, LIU and Penn State. So what I want to do, Dave, is I just want to kind of describe the teams that are out and the teams that are in that non-conference schedule, because, of course, the ECAC had no changes. So the ever-faithful, ever-rock-solid ECAC stays the same. So it all just kind of that will always be consistent. You can always count on that. Okay. Anyways, so out this season from last season are Niagara from the Atlantic Hockey Association and Maine from Hockey East. And replacing them are RIT, that's Rochester Institute of Technology, from the Atlantic Hockey Association, and Penn State from the Big Ten.
I didn't even know RIT had a hockey team.
Not only do they have a hockey team, they're a pretty darn good hockey team.
Okay.
Yes. So, definitely Colgate taking a step up here with playing RIT. They won their conference last season, and they made the NCAA tournament.
Oh.
Fact,
we don't hear that from our interns that go to RIT. I haven't heard anything about hockey team. We got to get those girls going here.
Well, you got the Hobart shirt on, which of course
I do.
Tanner.
Yeah.
Actually, I've got that all pulled up here for RIT.
You can't see it on here.
Just leave it to Dave to wear a Hobart shirt to a Colgate show. Anyways, they were
never even thought about the game tonight.
No. Yeah. They were 27-11-2 last season, so they had one heck of a season, and I tell you, they got a good program out there.
Good.
So yeah, that's going to be, and they're going to RIT. That is not a home game, so definitely a challenge for the Raiders. They're also going to be on the road to Penn State.
Oh,
which is Penn State had kind of a. I don't want to say a rough season, kind of a mediocre season last year, but they're a good program. And they play, of course, right there in Happy Valley, Pennsylvania, at the Pagula Ice Arena. Now, tell me why that Pagula name sounds familiar.
It does sound familiar.
They're the owners of the Buffalo Bills and the Buffalo Sabres.
Okay, all right.
So I'm not sure if it was Tom or his wife Kim. I think one of them went to Penn State and they donated the money to have that arena built.
Okay.
So, and it's a beautiful arena. I've seen the pictures and the video.
Therefore, they get their name on it.
That's right. That's the way it is. If you can actually afford to donate an arena, then I guess they name it after you, right?
That's why I get the name, my name on T-shirts.
Yeah, well, there, something like that anyway, right? Yeah. Oh, boy. So, and at home for the non-conference games, of course, we already mentioned Sacred Heart, and LIU is going to be coming to town as well. That looks like that's going to be early or late January by the looks of things. Correct? I'm going to actually just have to put this over onto ours because I was going to try to do a comparison, and I can't see that.
You can't see it. It's too far. The monitor is, 4 feet in front of you?
Yeah, well, it's also about 6 inches, so that's oh, my goodness. So, yeah, LIU coming to town. Yeah, January 10th and January 11th. Outside of that, it's all ECAC games, and especially to close the season out, which is normal. That's a very normal thing to close out with a lot of conference games. And the final game will be at home for the regular season, March 1st against Union. So I'll tell you, one of the games that I'm really looking forward to, you always look forward to the Harvard game. Harvard always puts together a powerhouse team. They're coming into town January 25th. And, of course, Quinnipiac. Quinnipiac has always been the, if you recall, the Raiders actually have had the Bobcats number over the past couple of years. The Bobcats a perennial powerhouse in the NCAA, but when they play the Colgate Raiders, things can get a little wacky. So, let's see. The Bobcats are coming to town November 23rd. That's a Saturday night down there at the Class of 1965 Arena. So, it's going to be a good time.
You like saying that, Class of 1965 Arena.
I do. And you know what? I got to get you down there sometime.
I know.
It is such a gorgeous arena. Yeah. It really is. People are probably, anybody who watches this show is probably like, oh, here we go again.
Here we go again.
But it is. It is like the hidden gem of Central New York. I'm telling you. Look at okay, sure. Yeah. Look at him. Look,
whatever. We got plenty of gems.
You won't say that once you go there. I'll tell you that.
Little Falls Diamonds, Herkimer Diamonds. We got gems everywhere.
Gems here, gems there, gems everywhere and everywhere.
Along the Mohawk.
Yeah, something like that. Oh boy. So there it is. We'll leave that graphic up there for just a second. Like I said, a couple changes non-conference wise, but mostly the same type of setup as last season. Not a lot of changes insofar as the structure of the schedule. So it's going to be a fun time. This, of course, being the second season for new Raiders head coach Mike Harder. They got some recruits coming in, which we're not gonna talk about today because, like I said, this is not a season preview show. It's not.
But you're tempted.
I know. I'm very tempted.
It's like,
maybe we'll just put an article out about that at some point. But I do know that they have 9 new recruits coming in. So, and if you want to read up about that, or if you want to anything about the Colgate Raiders, you're going to want to go to colgateathletics.com as well, because they got a lot of info up there. And of course, don't forget about CNYHockeyReport.com. How could you forget that?
How could we forget?
All right, so there that is. I'll tell you what, Dave, why don't we go to commercial break? That way we'll get a chance to recharge our batteries after this whole 10 minutes of work we just did. And
It's really tough. Stretched me.
And when we come back, we'll talk about the women's schedule.
Visit My Little Falls and stay connected with the latest news, information, and events in the city and the area. Our mission is to generate interest in the community and connect residents in a more meaningful way by facilitating deeper conversations about how these stories will shape the future of the Mohawk Valley. Join thousands of weekly visitors who stay up to date with feature stories, interviews, videos, our event calendar, and print publication, the Mohawk Valley Express. It's about timely local news for the community, keeping citizens informed about important issues, telling about the people who live and work here, and giving locally owned businesses the opportunity to reach a very targeted audience of locals and tourists alike. It's a whole new form of media-rich content developed specifically for today's mobile lifestyle and listeners. You can download our iOS app in the iTunes Store, listen to our country music streaming radio station, or sign up for a weekly newsletter. Stop by today at mylittlefalls.com. You'll be glad you did.
All right, and we are back now to talk about the Colgate Raiders women's hockey team schedule for this season. And here to help us out is, of course, our friend, the man, Jordan Brockway. Jordan, how are you? He's frozen in time.
Frozen.
We gave him such a great intro that he froze.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, yeah.
All right,
Let's see, is he back in?
Yeah. No, who knows?
I see some movement there.
Wait, it works.
What works?
Okay, I don't know if you heard my intro for you or not, but that's
No, but it's been a mess. First, the internet doesn't want to work, and then 800 things don't want to work. It's a different thing every time.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
That's right. Next time we're going to tell you we're recording like an hour earlier than we really are. So
Yeah.
Well, I was ready like 15 minutes early, and then one issue, and then another.
Do you have a car?
I wish.
Oh, I was going to say, because if you had a car, you could just come down to the studio.
Really? I mean,
we'd solve that problem for you right now.
A lot less trouble, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Oh, boy. So anyways, Jordan, we already talked about the men's team, so we're on to the women's team now. And, I didn't mention when we were doing the men's segment, they're not playing any preseason games. So I don't think they have in the past few seasons anyways. But the women are. So they normally do play a couple. They're only playing one this season, it looks like. And that is September 21st. It's a Saturday at St. Lawrence. If you recall.
Schedule up?
I got it right in front of you.
Yeah, well, for everybody else. It just.
Yeah, well, I was,
I was waiting. Need a cue.
Put it up. Yeah.
All right.
There you go.
It's there.
There's your schedule. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, they do have a preseason game scheduled up there in Canton University at Appleton Arena. Now, I got to tell you something. That's one of those old historic arenas that I'm bound to determine I'm going to get up there for a game this season.
Where's that at?
It's in Canton.
Okay. Appleton Arena.
Yep. I bet you that'd be a really cool road trip because Clarkson's right there too.
Yeah,
so, I mean, you could just do the whole swing there. So maybe that's what we'll do. We'll get you out on the road. The Dave the Sade Road Show. Yeah.
See, Jordy, you see how enthused I was over that?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So, anyways, the Colgate Raiders women, they open up their regular season on September 27th on the road at Mercyhurst. That's out there in Erie, Pennsylvania for 2 games. Friday and Saturday they're playing Mercyhurst. They, of course, are in the CHA, the college. No, actually, I think that is no longer. They're now combined with the Atlantic Hockey Association. I stand corrected. So, there you go.
I caught that.
I know you did. And let's see, the Raiders open up their home season, their home schedule on October 4th. The Minnesota Duluth Bulldogs, a perennial powerhouse from the WCHA, is coming to town. The Raiders actually played them last season. That was, what were they, like 5-6 in the country when they faced off against each other last season? That was out in Minnesota. The Raiders lost and then they tied. So Minnesota Duluth, still a very tough team coming into town. So that'll be one definitely to watch for. Otherwise, let's see, you got 34 total games, 12 non-conference, basically the same as the men, right? So in this year for the Colgate Raiders women's non-conference schedule is Post and Maine, the Black Bears. So the Maine Black Bears are out on the men's schedule and they're in on the women's. So we just can't get enough of Maine down there in Hamilton, I guess.
Can't get enough of Black Bears.
You know, I'll tell you something though. Those uniforms are awesome.
Really?
You ever seen them?
No.
Oh, they're pretty. They're a light blue, dark blue, and white. It's a great combo. It really is.
No bears on there?
Well, they have a bear logo.
Oh, okay. All right.
I can't.
I had several lines that were going to follow that.
No, you know what? Bugs Bunny's on their jersey. What do you think is
I don't know. You started blue and white. I'm like, what blue and white black bear have you ever seen?
Bugs Bunny and Wile E. Coyote are on the back,
I didn't know what
right?
show we were on. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Out on the non-conference schedule for the Raiders are Ohio State and Penn State. So they definitely, Ohio State is always a powerhouse. Penn State and women's hockey is always a powerhouse as well. So definitely the non-conference schedule got a little bit easier, which is actually, Jordy, I think kind of good given all the changes that the Colgate Raiders women's hockey team is going to face this season. They've lost a ton due to graduation. Coach Fargo moved on to the PWHL. Just recently, and this is not a preview show, but this is news.
How many people did they pick up?
This is huge. This is huge. No, Sydney Morrow, their All-American defenseman, she moved on to Minnesota.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a huge loss for Colgate. So to not have to play like Ohio State right off the hop really does help them quite a bit.
Why'd she move on?
You know what? There was no reason given.
Okay.
This is actually the third school that she's played for in her career.
Really?
So she started out at Ohio State, and then she transferred to Colgate, and now she's transferring on to Minnesota. So I don't know.
Finicky woman, isn't she?
Well, I don't know. I just don't know. So, Jordy, what do you think about that?
So, looking at it, I mean, a little bit of an easier schedule out of conference definitely helps. And when you're losing a couple people, including your leading scorer, it's not necessarily a bad thing for them. And you're not losing a ton like Utica University men's hockey lost last year, or their women's team is losing this year, but you're still losing some very good players and some depth players that you may have wanted if you were going to play some of those top tier teams.
Well, I would beg to differ a little bit on that because the Colgate Raiders women's team has lost a ton. Like you said, Danielle Stradakny's gone, but you figure Dara Gregg, Caitlin O'Donohue, Kaylee Osborne, the list goes on. Now Sydney Morrow, she's gone. I mean, you still have Culty Caltanova left, which is awesome. Alyssa Biederman's still there. Hannah Murphy's still in goal, but you lost half your team. And it was bound to happen, right? Because you got graduations. It happens. And that's kind of when you have a great recruiting class and when you piece together all that, it's like, wow, this is great for like 4 or 5 years in this case because of COVID. But then when they all graduate at the same time, it's like, oh boy. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's there's still some great players left in Colgate for sure, but a lot of losses too. And then I think, like we just said, having let's just call it an easier non-conference schedule is definitely going to help.
Yeah, and even in the conference, I mean, those games are rivalry games, so they'll always be close. So you always have that, all right, most games can be 1 or 2 goals plus. I mean, whether you're returning Murphy, I mean, you're returning a good goalie. So you also have that going for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, looking at some of the other non-conference games, they stay in New York State quite a bit. So they go out to RIT, who we just mentioned on the men's side there. They are playing RIT in Rochester, as a matter of fact, on October 11th and October 12th. And then they do their annual home-and-home series with Syracuse that, November 29th and November 30th. The 29th, it's up there in Syracuse at the Kennedy Ice Pavilion. And then, of course, the 30th, it's back home at the Class of 1965 Arena. Also notable to mention, of course, they play Quinnipiac twice because Quinnipiac is in the ACAC. And, of course, Quinnipiac is where Clinton's own Mia Lapata plays. So Mia will be coming back home on January 17th when the Bobcats visit the class of 1965 arena. So a game that we always look forward to.
Jordy, he said it like 5 times in the first half of the show.
I just love watching the look on Dave's face every time I do it. It's awesome.
I bet.
But yeah, then I mean, so I like the men. They close out basically the second half of their season with ECAC games. As a matter of fact, the second half is all ECAC now that I'm looking at it. So they come back from their end of the semester break on January 3rd, and they go to St. Lawrence for their regular season game up there. And, of course, that Syracuse home and home that I mentioned, that actually closes out the first half of the season. So as many college hockey enthusiasts know, they take an end of the semester break because, the schools are shut down for a month or so. Kids get to go home, see their families, see their parents, and I think it's a good thing, too, because, it gives everybody a chance to kind of recharge the batteries, rest for a little bit, relax, refresh, and it makes for some great hockey in the second half.
I'd make them play through.
Now, only if you're going to cover it, so you have to be there every day, and that changed your mind real quick.
The 1965 arena.
You got to get there. You got to get there. What can I tell you? But yeah, there it is. Like I said, 34 total games, 12 non-conference. Jordy, any thoughts else on the schedule?
Not much, other than it's always going to be a lot of competitive games, no matter who's coming in from out of conference, and the conference is always tough.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. And, of course, like I said, we will have the articles. I think Colgate's are actually going to be out tomorrow and Thursday. So that'll be up on the website. And then, of course, we got Oswego State coming this week, too, because I've already mentioned that, but I wanted to mention it again. And then after we're done with our schedule previews, we're going to start looking at some of these recruiting classes that are coming in because those are getting announced. And there's quite a bit of excitement coming in here to Central New York, seeing some of these awesome players coming in from all over North America and even really all over the world to come play at colleges here in Central New York. So
nice.
We've got that to look forward to.
And good.
Yeah, maybe we'll even do a show about it.
I don't know why. Oh, that's what we do. Wait.
Yeah, imagine that. All right, so that is all the time we have this week. We want to thank you for watching, listening, wherever you are or whatever you're doing with it. Anyways, for Dave the Save Warner, for Jordan Brockway, I'm Scott Kimball. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time on the Central New York Hockey Report podcast.